This research is jointly funded by Multicultural New South Wales, the Social Policy Research Centre, SPRC, at the University of New South Wales, which is known as the UNSW, and also CAS. It is co-designed by the SPRC research team and CAS staff members, and the research activities involve close collaboration between the two organizations. I'd like to begin with introducing the CAS board members who are present today. First of all, our Foundation Chairperson and Honorary Executive Director, Mr. Henry Pan, OAM. Deputy Chairperson and Secretary, Mr. Anthony Pan. Vice Chairperson, Professor Stephen Lee. Also, our members of the Board of Directors, Mrs. Esther Dong, Dr. Bei Lu, Ms. Tika Lee, Mrs. Teresa Chu, and Mrs. Winnie Fong. It is our honor and pleasure today that we have two distinguished guests are here today to support the event, and they are Ms. Jenny Leung, MP, member for Newtown, and Councillor Nancy Liu, Councillor of Georges River Council. I would like to also introduce the SPRC research team, and they are Professor Ilan Kass, Professor Bin-Chin Lee, Dr. Iran Lee, Ms. Yixuan Huang, and Mr. Wenxuan Zhang. Thank you all for joining us today. Now please welcome Mr. Anthony Pang, the CAS Deputy Chairperson and Secretary, to give the welcome speech.
Thank you very much, Robin. Morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome to this opening session of this cooperation between CAS and the research team from University of New South Wales. I'd also like to welcome Jenny, favorite MP. She stood up for the Chinese community, the first person to speak up, and I'm very grateful for what you've done in Parliament. Thank you very much. And obviously, Nancy Liu, our favorite councillor up in the Southwest area, and members of the board. And I'd also like to welcome all those, my friend William from the Korean community, and that's great to see you here, and any other group that never does. And before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owner of this land and pay my respect to elders past and present in emerging. Now, I'm very delighted to see all of you here today, and I'd like to welcome to launch the book that's called The Research into New Pathway to Combat Old Age, Loneliness in the Cal Community. Right now we're dealing with the Asian community, and your presence is greatly maturing, and the future of volunteerism and enhancing the inclusion of our community is extremely important. Volunteering has been the backbone of CAS, has been a long time, 41 years down the track to be exact, and it has enabled us to grow and sustain and develop over the last 40 years. And CAS is one of the pioneering group within the Cal community and a formal structure for volunteer management, and volunteer has played a big part. And I'd like to thank also the Korean community that over the last few years has joined CAS to get involved in our activity group. And they're one of the biggest group within CAS, apart from the Chinese group. And in terms of the other area, just yesterday, Oh, I'd also like to thank people from my good friend from the Department of Home Affairs too, by the way. Sorry, I miss you out. And they've been pretty helpful too. We're running a session together with them too in terms of educating our community, and they've been very helpful in terms of their contribution to the community. It's great to see you guys here too, by the way. Now, even yesterday, we had a function called Planning Ahead of after you're gone, you know. And the first time we ran it, because I'm involved in the cemetery and crematorium unit, New South Wales. And I thought it was quite interesting that maybe we run it. So 120 people turned up yesterday, and they're volunteers, right? And they're learning things that they didn't know before. Say in China, you got no choice. You get cremated, whether you like it or not, right? But here we had a choice. And the question they asked was quite interesting too. What size is my graveyard? I said, I didn't know that myself. So they were very, very provoking question that I find, even the guys from One Crown, which is a consolidation of the four cemetery, right? And they were asking questions that, I never thought about. So what they learned yesterday was they'll pass it on to other friends and other volunteers so that message get across. And the other thing also interesting that we're running courses on civic courses, and civic courses comprising of how the government works in Australia. Where they come from, it doesn't matter where they're from, Vietnam, Korea, very different system. So our job is CARE's job is to educate them in terms of how we run it, how the system works in terms of federal, what the responsibility, the state, and the council level. So they learn it and they'll pass it on and they'll discharge their responsibility knowing what the system of government is. And I'd like to thank the Home Affairs group who actually also help out in delivering that sort of message across. So the work of volunteering within CARES is very important. We are delivering a message to the government, for the government actually, for the community, and for other communities. So hopefully we can spread that out to the Korean group, to the Vietnamese group, the Indonesian group, the Singapore group. So what we're doing is a fantastic job. And I'd like to thank the New South Wales for actually joining us to this research. And the policy in terms of it designing is funded by, also, without the money, we can't work. I'd like to thank Multicultural New South Wales for putting the grant together and supporting us and New South Wales Uni to carry out this research, which I think is a booklet up today. Our senior volunteer have voluntarily contributed their time and effort to foster a mutual understanding in the community to encourage people to integrate into society. Those examples I just mentioned earlier is very important. An average guy out there may not realize that how important it is to educate the community. You teach one person, that person will teach the third person, the second and third, and on. And it's a great sort of activity. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the findings of the full report. And the CAS is determined to make a continuous improvement and cultivate more volunteers to serve the wider community. As this study serves as an entry point for future research, which will include the diverse other groups, I hope this volunteering management model by CAS can be applied for other community and benefit society generally. And I'd like to thank Dr. Lee about this research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peng. I'd like now to invite Ms. Jenny Leung, MP, member for Newtown, to come to the front and give a speech, please.
To do it there? Yeah, no problem. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here at the launch of this report. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are here on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, recognising that it always was and always will be First Nations land, and that it's incumbent on all of us when we do an acknowledgement of country to recognise that the struggle for First Nations justice continues and is something that we all need to make sure that we are putting first and foremost in all we do. I would like to thank Tony, to thank the CAS board, staff members and teams, and also to acknowledge the incredible research team that is here today from UNSW, from the Social Policy Research Centre, for this important piece of work. I think we know in theory that volunteering and every bit of research you suggest is that people that volunteer are happier as people, and that is like all the evidence suggests that. But you don't need to just know the theory, you just need to look at your own life, to look at your own experience and the meaning that you get out of your life and the sense of fulfillment that you get when you are in a position where you're contributing to helping other people, to helping others in society, or to connecting people within the community. And I think what better focus for this kind of research on looking at the isolation of older people and the benefits that volunteering and contributing and being empowered to contribute to society can have than working and partnering with CAS, because the network of CAS. I was recently at a parliamentary inquiry into crisis communications for culturally and linguistically diverse communities, and the chair of that committee, which was a government chair, I think thought when the CAS representatives turned up to give evidence, that this is probably a small community group, maybe with a couple of members sitting in a community hall somewhere. And I think the astounding reality is when the deputy chairperson and secretary said, "Oh no, we have 500 staff and a network of thousands and thousands of people across New South Wales," and it almost fell off their chair, I think, because what's not known is that the power of the connection within diverse communities is something that is so often not noticed by other people. And so while everyone within the Chinese Australian community, within the Asian Australian community, and within the multicultural community understands the power and the reach and the connection that CAS holds in our communities and the support given, it's something that is not visible to everybody else. And I think being able to build on these partnerships and demonstrate the contribution that organisations like CAS make, but also the volunteering work and the impact that it has on people that are older, that are isolated, is so powerful as a model to say that this is a model that we can take and use in other communities, in other ways, if it's properly resourced, properly funded, and we empower volunteers to be able to do that. And so I want to acknowledge the contribution of everybody to being able to bring this issue into the light. I also want to acknowledge, as has been done already, the contribution of state and federal departments to being able to make sure that this report happens, but also once again put a hand together, and I think we all should do, for the research team that has brought this to light, because if it was not for your efforts, we would not be here with this report that we can now wave around the various powers that be and say there needs to be a lot more support and recognition of the contribution of volunteers, older volunteers in our community, but volunteers from migrant and culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds that are making a significant contribution to our society. And just on that, I would also like to acknowledge my fellow elected representative, Councillor Nancy Yu, who's here. It's wonderful to be at another event with you, Nancy, and to say that whether it be at a local or a state level, we are all committed to the idea of making sure that we are being a strong voice for the communities that are diverse and strong within our state, and to make sure that they are not ignored, but instead are seen as what they truly are, which is leaders in the way that we do community outreach and community connections. So thank you all, and I look forward to hearing more details of the report now. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jenny Leong MP. We have a guest who can't join us in person today, unfortunately, which is Dr. Sue Regan, the Deputy CEO and Policy Director of Volunteering Australia. But Dr. Regan sends her greetings on a video, and let's have a look on the screen.
Hello, my name's Sue Regan and I'm Deputy CEO of Volunteering Australia. Sorry I can't be there in person today, but I'm hoping to join you online this morning for the launch of the CAS and UNSW research. Volunteering Australia is the national peak body for volunteering. So we advocate for volunteers and volunteering all across Australia. Some of you may know that we're currently leading the development of a new national strategy for volunteering, which is looking ahead to the next 10 years of volunteering in Australia. My colleague Sarah Wilson, who's the National Strategy Director, is currently on the road, undertaking visioning workshops in New South Wales, but also all across Australia in capital cities, but also in regional and rural areas. And we're looking at really setting out a roadmap for the future of volunteering. We're very keen that this is a evidence-based process, and so delighted to hear about new research that is being that is taking place. The research being published today by CAS and UNSW is a great example of a co-design approach to research, which we very much welcome at Volunteering Australia. It also touches on many of the themes that we are hearing from across the volunteering ecosystem. So that includes focusing on older people and volunteering and how we can support older people to volunteer. That includes looking at diverse communities and how volunteering can become more common in those communities. It also resonates with a focus on social isolation and tackling loneliness, and the role that volunteering can play there. So delighted to be here today and to welcome the research, and I look forward to engaging virtually in the conversation this morning. Thank you.
Okay, that's very nice video, and greetings from Dr. Regan.
Australia is home to various cultures and communities. Established in 1981, for the past 4 decades, CAS has aimed to promote diversity, inclusion, and harmony among multicultural communities. CAS has grown into a major social and welfare services provider. CAS has been providing affordable, good quality childcare services and family daycare services throughout the Sydney region. Our diversified disability services include 24/7 in-house support and care. In 2015, our first residential aged care facility commenced operation. We also assist newly arrived migrants with settlement concerns. Our home aging services offer culturally and linguistically appropriate care. CAS is committed to serving the community at every stage of life. At the end of 1980s, the number of Chinese migrants increased rapidly. To assist the seniors to live a happy and healthy life, we established the first Hua'an Seniors Group in 1993. Activities include singing and dancing, craft, playing musical instruments, participate in council activities, play chess and mahjong, sports, excursions, and more. The activity groups also actively participate in environmental protection activities organised by councils. CAS organises visits to community facilities such as hospitals, police stations, and historical buildings. We also provide large-scale community promotion and training program. Through these varied activities, group members have gained deeper understanding of the Australian society, helping them to integrate into the mainstream environment. To ensure our volunteers understand their responsibilities and rights, CAS arranges regular volunteer training. At present, we are running over 30 activity groups. These groups are run with the support of our dedicated volunteers on a self-help mode. Each CAS activity group have a local management committee, responsible for the management and the running of the group. The local committee members are volunteers and are elected by the group members. The activity groups are not-for-profit and must meet all government guidelines, standards, and legal requirements. CAS is responsible for providing the venue, insurance, external promotion, plus support and assistance to the activity groups. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our volunteers played a significant role in reaching out to the multicultural communities to ensure inclusion. CAS is able to grow because we have a team of dedicated volunteers that we can be proud of. We are determined to make continuous progress, help more people with non-English backgrounds to break language barriers, and cultivate more outstanding and talented volunteers to serve the wider community.
That's a nice video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to invite a lady to come to the front and share with us her experience as a volunteer. This lady, she is one of the most senior volunteers at CAS, Madam Pauline Tao. She has been the leader of CAS Ashfield Activity Group Social Dance Time for over a decade. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Madam Pauline Tao.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sue Regan from China. I am just a little bit over 88 years old. I migrated to Australia in 2008 on the ground of family reunion. I was so lucky to be here, enjoy a good quality of life for my last journey of life. Initially, I was so excited and delighted with my new life here. But as time went on, I gradually found myself with some sort of a pleasant feeling. But I could not explain why. I stay home by myself, doing nothing till late afternoon. Thanks to CASS, they warmly welcomed me to be one of their volunteer members. From early 2009, I got involved in one of their CALD groups, Ashfield doing group on every Tuesday morning from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. My role is the group was assisting the group of organizer to arrange everything which is required for the group event on the day. From 2014, I also acted as a group organizer for another CALD group under CASS in Ashfield as being a volunteer. I have found my happy life back and also been full of confidence with my life in Australia. The way of being a volunteer was not easy when I started volunteer. I found my English is not good. As an LD volunteer at some stage, I found myself physically weak and mentally forfeit. I realized a good physical and mental condition were very important to fulfill volunteer duties. So I did daily low exercise, such as walking, dancing, Tai Chi to keep myself fit. Has rewarded me more than what I had contributed. I found myself and happy. I use a person again. Now I am a happy, volunteer, senior lady in my daily life activity. When you are happy, others, and you are actually helping yourself, and even more. Based on my volunteer experience, I highly recommend senior volunteer to all the elderly people being a volunteer. You are not only extending your life in time, but also involve which could not be counted by money. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very beautifully put. Being a volunteer, you're not just extending your life in timing, but also in value you can't count in money. So coming next will be our research report presentation. You will learn in more details what we have learned through our presentation by Professor Bin Chin Lee from University of New South Wales. Please welcome Professor Bin Chin Lee.
Before I start, I would also like to pay tribute to the Aboriginal elders and elders who hold Aboriginal people who hold custodian of the land, and particularly every time I say this tribute, and the term elders show up, and it make me feel that yes, in our culture, the older people are treasures of society rather than burdens of society. So we can learn a lot from them, and they are resources and also valuable, making contribution to the society. So now I just give a brief discussion of the report. We have done, this report is very long, and if you enjoy, I hope you enjoy reading it. And it's actually very interesting stuff when we started talking to the CAS people. And when we realized they have such large volunteer activity, such a long history, as the MP was saying that I was shocked, and I thought you were only looking after older people and children. They said, no, we have on the side this huge activity. So we said, we want to look at this, and how did you do this? So basically, when we started to, this is our research and the research team, and we also we have worked very closely together in the last several months and hold endless meetings and trying to figure out. And we asked many questions to CAS, and they thank you very much for also helping us to put this together. And of course, I think in a multicultural society, and usually, not only in Australia, in many countries, you have a lot of this kind of 3D older people. What I mean is they are disoriented, disconnected, and depressed. And they are immigrants from other countries, and or have a minority sort of a culture, and that it's difficult for them to integrate into the society. And this is often also related to aging, and also cultural diversity and immigration of society. And then from the social service perspective, and there's growing demand for culturally appropriate services. Otherwise, these people are left out. And also it is, from the local authorities' perspective, it's very difficult to reach out to these people. And what can be done? And in Social Policy Research Center, we have looked into many different types of fields, and we find it, there's often some sort of a missing link there. And on the one hand, the service providers and the local council were trying really hard, and also trying to reach out. They all said to me, we tried, but somehow it's difficult. But then on the other side, we go to talk to the older people in the Chinese community. What we hear is that we don't want to sit here and just enjoy the benefits you give us, and we want to be self-reliant. We want to contribute to the society. When I come to join my children after looking after my grandchildren. What else can I do? And so this is the kind of a question we keep hearing. So that's why when I hear CAS is doing these volunteer activities, and I remember I listened to Ivan was giving a presentation in a meeting. I said, I just follow up. I said, can I look at what you are doing? And luckily, they are happy to allow us to do this. And we end up working together so much. And then how has, so the question we put forward is, how has CAS managed the volunteer activities to allow continuous contribution from the Chinese older people? And even if in many occasions you see people are trying to contribute, and it is very difficult, people actually do not, people start with some activities, after some time the enthusiasm disappears. So what we have done is we trace the changing nature of CAS volunteerism over time. Over this 40-year time, we did a lot of, thanks to Henry, gave us a lot of explanation, and we asked him millions of questions as well. And also we look at the governance of CAS community volunteer model, and then we also talk to the older people to see what they have, what they can offer. What is their feedback of this? And also we reflect on the basis of what all these information from different perspectives, and we want to see what we can learn from this and what else can be done. So this is basically, we call it a strengths-based research, and the reason we call it in this way is usually academic people will come around and criticize people, but we find that after doing this research, we learned so much from the community, from the organization, and also from the enthusiasm of the volunteers. So these are the kind of, so we have volunteer perspective and institutional perspective. And in terms of what kind of volunteers we are talking about, and here is just the profile, average. Actually, it's an incredibly diverse group of people. So you have, on average, they are 70, older than 70-year-old, and a lot of them have stayed in Australia for many years, but they are also newcomers as well. And then there are also, some of them have volunteered for more than 10 years. And what put them together, hold them together for such a long time? Actually, also a lot of caring work is very hard for people to do it for a long time. And also, they have, on average, do 12 hours per week volunteer with CAS. Some of them also do volunteer with other organizations. And actually quite a large proportion do volunteer outside as well. But they spend most of their time in CAS, and also started to do other activities outside CAS as well. And also the language background, they come from different background, and also come from different countries as well. And they come here for different purposes, and some of them come here look after their grandchildren. At the moment, their purpose is to look after grandchildren. Some other people stay here after retirement, and other people also come and worked in Australia for a while as well. So let's look at the history part. And I initially thought, when I started, I thought a CAS was volunteer is a separate part of the main activity. And when we did the research, we traced the history, it started with volunteer. So the initial stage, 1980s volunteer activity was actually helping people to become, trying to run the organization, to make the organization to survive. And then later in 1990s, try to help to expand the business. If you think about volunteers at this stage, was mostly about entrepreneurship and the management, and try to sustain the business. It's almost like a self-serving type of volunteerism. But then alongside, starting from the 1990s, already emerging, and then by the time of 2008, they sort of consciously make a decision that we actually want to get into this community building. So volunteers are helping each other, and we are helping volunteers. And so it becomes not only a self-serving type of volunteer activity. And of course, with our research together, now we are trying to discuss this idea of volunteer incubation. But let's just look at the model. And just now in the slide, people already talked about it. But I just highlight the structure. So you have senior activity groups here, and then they, some of them be elected and get into this local management committee. And the local management committee have also some elder people as mentors for the group. And also, mostly volunteers can participate to decide what's going on. And also the coordinator, sometimes for new groups, when they are not very experienced, then the CAS might have some staff member to help them, give them some advice. And, but on the whole, these activities were all operated by the group members themselves. And then they attend sort of regular meetings and try to report to the CAS to what they want to do and what new initiative they want to make. And of course, it's also feedback to the board. But I call this assisted self-governance. Usually people have very rosy ideas about self-governance, thinking that a group of people coming together, we just do self-governance, everything will be done. But the reality is, in the CAS model, what we can see is CAS has provided support to self-governance. So self-governance needs to be nurtured, and there are some potential ways to be supported. And so then we just look at the feedback from the benefits. Very interestingly, these are these are the older people's feedback, but they use almost exactly the same terms. What we can see from Health Direct, what they benefit from volunteering. And this Health Direct is Australian health website. They said how volunteer can help. And CAS also has these aims. You use a different set of terms, but then they match very closely. What you can see here is that people are trying to become connected to the society. And also they want to be useful to the society. These are the two most important perspectives. And then CAS also kind of have actively trying to support this. The next one here is basically when we look at the training, what people value about the CAS support. One is the training. Is basically older people receive training about leadership or about how to do particular type of volunteer. Leadership is about how to lead this group, and how to avoid conflicts. Older people also fight against each other, so then how can we try to sort it out? And then, of course, CAS also pay for the venue and insurance and gives management. But what you can see here, this training is to help older people to become self-reliant and try to become self-governant. And these motivational measures to make older people feel that they are making a contribution, acknowledge their contribution. So I think these two, all these things keep echoing back to this older people's idea of we want to become independent, we want to be contribute. So then what we can see, these are the feedback. When I look at it, I thought, oh gosh, as a professor, if my student can give me this kind of feedback, I would be very happy. And so the last thing I want to talk about is the ripple effect here, what we can observe. The activity groups, they started from the activity groups, and then also come up with, within the activity group, they do some volunteer activities initially. And then between group members, they help each other. And outside group activity, for example, I need shopping and can you help me? And you see these kind of activities happening between group members. And then later you also see volunteers. The CAS also send messages around. We need volunteers who want to participate. And among the 400 volunteers, there's almost a translation rate of 100 people come to CAS to volunteer via this channel. That is very interesting. And also some of these we discussed, nearly 50% of people also do volunteer outside. And then they learn the skill and then they go out to help other groups to set up outside CAS as well. So this kind of, and nowadays when the other communities see what is happening here and they also want to join. So this kind of a ripple effect is happening over time. And of course, as we discussed, these are the kind of what is important for volunteer organizations, activities, organizations to provide this kind of what can motivate volunteers. If you look at the literature on the volunteers, it's very sort of similar to the mainstream outcomes. And even though these older people had been socially isolated and difficult to reach out, that is actually what they are doing is filling in a quite big gap here. And the way to do is to provide low entry, easy entry for people to get in. And once people are interested, and then they start to ignite their enthusiasm for volunteerism. And also try to make it culturally appropriate. We have a lot of material in the report to discuss what was the culturally appropriate result. So basically, I was thinking about it. This is almost like a volunteer incubator's idea. What is volunteer incubator? Usually incubator, people talk about business incubator. And to help entrepreneurs to produce volunteer materials in order to help entrepreneurs to provide profits to sustain their business. But what CAS has come up is that we do not only sustain profitability, we actually help older people, help communities to nurture volunteer, to sustain their enthusiasm, to contribute to the society. Then this need a lot of effort and support to achieve. So the input, what we can see here is training and some infrastructure and facilitation and governance and also the network CAS can provide. And then of course it's also generate this impact and results. We have more discussion in the report. You are welcome to look at it. And so finally, what are the implications here? And what we can see is that a lot of organizations can potentially develop from self-serving organizations to deliver service, use volunteer, and then in the end, they may also go on to community development. But if we think about it, it took CAS more than 40 years to do so. So there are also a lot of other organizations potentially try to do, but this journey is really long and take a lot of vision to look at, to devote it, a lot of resources in order to do it. But then for other new organizations, if they want to develop some sort of a volunteer link to social services, link to contribution to the society for the CALD population, and there needs to be some extra support from outside. CAS is also a very big organization now, but there might be a lot of small organizations, they do not have such capacity. And is there any way to do service sector-wide kind of incubation and also allow these experienced organizations like CAS to exchange knowledge with the other activities. And also, of course, we need to, this is largely happening in the Chinese community, and we also know that the Korean community and the Indonesian community are also coming. And we can also try to look more closely. And how does this kind of model can actually generate further impact in the different communities? And then, of course, the core message is that for community development, and there needs to be an effort trying to consciously support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We will have a Q&A session. So I believe many of you will want to ask something in further details after, hearing the presentation. So I'd like to invite Professor Ilan Katz, Professor Bin-Chin Lee, and also Mr. Ivan Wong to come to the front and for the Q&A session.
Question or a comment? Yes, we've got one over there.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad I'm able to attend this function, which is very helpful. My name is Helen, and I work as a volunteer in Kensington Center. We are 7 volunteers in our center, and we specifically focus on Indonesian community. However, all backgrounds are welcome, as always. Now, we cater about 50 to 70 members on Fridays from 10 o'clock to 2 p.m. Now, on behalf of my group, volunteers group, and also the Kensington Center, I would like to raise a question. In which area do we need to adjust or perhaps improve from what we are currently doing to better ourselves in the community? I do understand there has been a lot of information out there, which is very useful. Is there any more that we need to get help from? Thank you.
I'll pass that on to Ivan, please.
Okay, yeah. I think, first of all, I have to thank the researchers, especially Bin-Chin and Ilan, for all the work that you have done and the inspiration that you gave us during the whole research process. Of course, in the community, there are a lot of people who are mentioning about different kinds of help that are needed. Basically, in terms of the groups that Helen just mentioned, our approach is that we are trying to empower the volunteers, to empower them, so that the volunteers can become more actively engaged in the process, to do something better for the group, to do something better for the community. So my simple reply is that we encourage the volunteers to participate, to take part. But at the back, we will give help, including if there's a need for training for this empowerment. If there's a need for staff or the organization support to make contacts, like to organize meetings, opportunities to meet with government departments. So this kind of background support, also CAS is very happy to provide. So basically, it's a community participation approach that I think, in the whole process of fighting for more help or more resources for the group or for the community.
Yeah, Bin-Chin.
What I have noticed that basically, of course, I didn't mention it so much just now. This assisted self-governance approach. Basically, CAS is offering this kind of support, but it's light touch support. When people need something, they come to CAS and then ask for this kind of support. For example, we need a venue, and then where can we organize this event? And I noticed that within the not CAS activity groups outside, one of the main issues is how are we going to get venues for this event? We have 100 people, and what can we do? And a lot of people, because of language barrier and because of some admin hurdles, they may find it hard to They do not have the courage to contact councils to provide venues. But when they come to CAS, CAS can say that we can help you to sort out some of these admin responsibilities. So this kind of light touch support, I think, is very important. But at the same time, also stress on self-reliance and for the other activities. And if you do not ask for help, we do not deliberately try to push help on you. So that I personally think it's very important. And yeah.
And do we have any other questions? Yes, there's one in the middle.
Yeah, I would like to have a question for Yan and maybe Bin Qin. So from your research, what are the most challenging issues you could find for the sustainability and development and extension of this volunteer career, if I could call it?
Yes. You mean what are the most challenging things for
CAS?
yeah. And you mean for CAS or for the activity groups?
For activity groups under CAS, that's what I like.
Yeah.
If you want to expand to
Yeah.
furthermore or grow into a bigger scale.
Yeah, I think for the activity groups, what we have come across is they basically the older people, they want to, they are very enthusiastic to contribute, but at the same time there is also this respect for older people in the group, and then when young people try to say that we want to do something, and then I want to be the leader of the group, so that can be potentially be some issue. And there were some difficulties, a discussion on this. And people want to be the leaders. And then CAS actually find alternative solutions to that. Basically, you can't just tell an older person who are there and saying that, please keep going. No, they actually developed this path saying that we can invite you to become the senior advisor of the group, so the mentors, and then you move up one level, and then the other people can continue. But these kind of activities is over time, all big solutions come up with the challenges, and when people complain about it, they come up with these challenges and come up with these the solutions. So I think the main idea is how to sustain people's enthusiasm in this. That's why I think incubator, because the idea of incubator is to make continued profits for the organization to sustain. But then for CAS, this kind of volunteer is not about profit, it's about enthusiasm, how I'm going to sustain it. And then all different, there need to be a lot of solutions. And for CAS volunteer, I think the main challenge is probably the demand is getting too high, and it's very demanding on the staff member. I participated in some of these activities, and they have different locations. All activities are going on at the same time, and people like Peony and all these young staff members who work with us and juggling between multiple tasks. And yeah, I find it. I think in the long run, if there's incubator, that can have professional people who focus on offering support. And I think that can be it's also more economical. Instead of one person juggling between many activities, and some dedicated people who can do this incubator, I think it would be almost like business. Community development needs business-like development. And that can help.
Well, although the question is not directed to me, I also want to say something about the challenges that we are facing. Well, to be honest, I'm extremely proud that at present, CAS has more than 300 regular volunteers helping in our services and activities. I don't think many community organizations can achieve this. But at the same time, I can also see that the demand is really great. I agree totally with Benjamin on this. Through the work that we have done in the past 40 years, we have done a lot of work or achieved a lot in the quad community, especially in the Chinese Korean community. But I really think that this way of developing volunteers, or using the term of the Bing-Chin and Ilan, the incubation of volunteers, can apply to other people as well. Because there are always a lot of people who are being missed out, or ignored, or overlooked. They can work as a volunteer to contribute to the community. But so far, not many people really committed to develop this valuable treasure in the community, to make more people participate and contribute to the community. I think in addition to the Chinese, the Korean or other core communities, like the refugees, the people with disability, they can also contribute. Like if Henry doesn't mind, I really can also mention even people like Henry, despite his disability, he has been making tremendous contribution to the community. But this group of people are being overlooked. Yeah. And for this reason, I'm really very glad that today we have so many people participating in this report launch, including people from different government departments, other community organizations who are here. I think there are rooms that people work together, join hands, to develop more volunteers in our community so that more people can participate and more people can contribute. CAS alone will not be able to do it. It's a really big challenge. And I really want more people to participate in this work to develop and grow the volunteers in our community.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this launch today to bring up all of those research results to the community. Thank you so much for the opportunity to invite me, Ivan, and your board of directors. I'm pretty sure, the audience today, like me, we are pretty much interested in, Professor Bing-Chin to bring up this concept. Volunteer incubator, we talked about a couple of times, right? I'm just thinking from someone working in the local government for more than 10 years, and a part of the local government, which is a very grassroots government tier level in the society. I'm thinking, because it's a new concept to me, I'm thinking as someone representing the local government, is there anything that you really expect from us when you try to do your vision in the future? So is there anything that you wanted to get from us, or anything we can assist on this concept in the future, or create more, more fruitful outcome in the future? So the question to Professor and to Ivan as well. Thank you.
I think that there are several perspectives. Ilan, please add. And we are very happy to see that councils are interested. And I think one perspective is we have talked to with CAS and outside CAS a lot of Chinese older peoples and who want to participate in all different ways. And one thing is that people are looking for the opportunities like CAS type of capacity building activities. And there are also a lot of volunteer groups exist. But how to link the organized services, social services, so that people, they're not only just dancing and singing, but over the longer run, they also feel that they're contributing to the society. And these there's often a mismatch of information. Who is, here you have people want to do work, the other side, they do not have enough people. Is happening a lot. And then how can we do this kind of information match? That is one issue. And possibly there can be information platforms or information or gadget, whatever, and to help to develop this can potentially in the service themselves, but also I think council level of information distribution, and that can be one thing. And another one is that people want to know what the council is doing, and then how we also organize discussion groups. We would like people like you to participate and share information and share knowledge so that people can, people do not have enough information will be able to participate. And of course, another important thing is we always try to generate evidence. We say incubator is very important. Of course, we see this is a single case study, but we want to make sure that it goes to different communities, and CAS itself goes into different communities. How would that perform? Would they face the same issue as the Chinese communities? So there need to be more research to do like this. And also at the same time, what we can do in terms of bridging the CAS kind of volunteer communities and outside other communities. So it's not only Chinese communities working within Chinese community, Korean, and how are we going to bridge? Let's say I talked to Italian community people. They were saying, we would be happy to socialize with you, and they did not know how. So there's a lot of this cultural kind of opportunities to develop as well. So we would be very happy to see, you mentioned that your council have multiple cultural communities as well. And we would be very happy to think about what else can be done, and together with you as well. Yeah.
I would also like to add something. In the incubator model, actually there are certain very important inputs that are necessary to make things happen. And on this end, I'll say that the local council, and of course, even the state government or federal government, they are important stakeholders in terms of input in this model. This kind of input can include infrastructures. That's it. Yeah, can include infrastructures, just like say in Nancy's local council area, council is providing the Hurstville Senior Center, the Cockroach Arts School of Arts. So the provision of venue definitely is a support. And then funding, also important. And also sometimes councils also have a staff member, the age worker, helps in our groups in Hurstville as well. So these are things that other stakeholders can help in this process to provide the input to make things happen. In a way, I'll say that CAS is very lucky to be able to contribute, because at present, we in a way we are quite sizable. We are now supporting more than 5,000 families every week, and we employ more than 500 staff members. So with this kind of power, so we are able to provide a lot of this kind of input. But I think for other community centers, probably they will need more support. But that said, even for CAS, we also feel the pressure in terms of the resources input. Because at present we also have to pay for some rent. Although the Georges River Council is very kind, they don't charge us anything. The Kensington Center, lucky the council members are not here. They charge us a lot. And then so we need those kind of resources. And so if there can be more funding support, obviously CAS is able to do more. As I just mentioned, the challenge is big, the demand is big, and we need this kind of resources to help us to provide this input in this incubator model.
Can I just add a little bit to that? I do think that there's a role to play in local government, state and Commonwealth, federal government. Federal government has the overall policy on aged care, and there's been a Royal Commission recently, and there's a lot of work at that level and services for aged care and benefits. State government provides a lot of the services as well. And then local government, as Ivan said, can provide facilities, resources and support. So each level of government contributes to the concept of volunteering in the incubator. And of course, it's not free. You know, as Ivan says, you do need resources. CAS needs resources, and other NGOs need the resources as well, and that generally comes from different levels of government as well. So that's a very important question. I think we've got time for one more question. Is that right? There we've got one more.
Mary Carris from the Ethnic Communities Council of New South Wales, and I want to commend CAS for this wonderful opportunity of this launch this morning. It's a lot of work and a lot of research. I guess my question is really around, and I think Ivan's touched on this, is our new and emerging communities, where the concept of volunteering is not quite clear to them. For them it's an understanding, why am I not getting paid? So how are we going to approach that? And I think CAS, you can be the leaders in this, absolutely, and with our support. But do you have any solutions around that?
Perhaps I share something first, yeah. And on this end, I think training is important, yeah. Raising of awareness is important. I totally agree that there are a lot of people in the community who do not know the meaning of volunteering in Australia here, yeah. Why we do so much work but get no pay? Why I have this level of responsibility, like the people in our board? Well, they have heaps of responsibilities over their shoulder, but they don't get it sent, they don't get any pay. And then there are also people who think that volunteers can only do some simple job. Don't ask me to handle the money, don't ask me to make decisions. So there is a lot of need for understanding on volunteering. And I'll say that definitely more work need to be done on raising the awareness and training.
And also, can I just add one sentence here? So what CAS has done is they use this activity group basically to attract people, to let them have emotional attach to the organization, so that they feel that they want to contribute. This is the first step. So we think it's very important for these organizations to open up and to welcome people to come to their services, to understand their services by having some interesting activities provided for them, so then they would be more interested in contributing. So some of these intergroup activities, and I've mentioned in the Ripple Effect, is actually even CAS didn't ask them to do so. And they come to the group, they decided to do them themselves. So this kind of lower the entry hurdle as much as possible to attract people to come in is very important.
Yeah, I also know that many people do not trust in volunteers. Yeah, they think that you spend too much time to develop them, they are not stable. But I think our experience is that you really need to have that patience and that input to make things happen. Because volunteers can really make amazing things. They, in a way, they are even more committed than some of our staff members, I would say. They are more committed. And I'm also, well, in a way, a bit surprised to see the rippling effect of the volunteering in our situation. If I can remember correctly, more than 40% of our volunteers are now helping in other organizations, which is very amazing. Because once they got the knowledge, once they know about volunteering, they got the satisfaction, they actually can go outside to participate more in the community, to contribute. And that's really amazing. And for this reason, I really encourage everyone who are here today, yeah, to work together, yeah, to promote the volunteering in our community. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and thanks everybody. I think we've run out of time now, but we do have morning tea, I think, and so if you have other questions, then sorry. I think Bing Cheng also wants to thank some people, so.
Yes. Just very quick, of course we have the support from CAS, and all these people are working together with us, and we actually, at some point I felt, are we troubling them too much, asking their busy work, and started to send me message. I send the message at night, and then they reply at night. And also I was thank Peony, who is so good at organizing activities. We feel that we are very well organized by her for setting up the menu and doing all these admin work. And Ivan has been also keep chatting with us. And so we feel very important to acknowledge their support. And also in our group, we have Iran and Yixuan have been visiting the older people and interviewing them during the COVID. And also all these older people who had to, wanted to come out to talk to us, even during the COVID-19, and among the Chinese community. So that is very, we are very moved. And also today they are coming. And a lot of them probably haven't come out to meet people for a long time. So we thank everybody for making such contributions.
Thank you, Professors and Ivan. Please feel free to return to your seat. Yes, our presentation is approaching the end. And we'd like to make some acknowledgement. First of all, we must acknowledge the multicultural New South Wales, part of the New South Wales government, which provided the funding for this project. And as Professor Lee just mentioned, we do have the research team that we would like to extend our gratitude to. It's a kind of a long list, so please bear with me when I go through the names. From University of New South Wales, we have Dr. Iran Li, Ms. Yixuan Huang, Professor Elon Katz, and Professor Bing-Chin Li. And from CAS, we have Mr. Henry Pan, Mr. Bosco Chang, Ms. Wendy Liang, Mr. Ivan Wong, Ms. Peony Chick, and Ms. Molly Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Thank you. And meanwhile, we also must thank Ms. Jenny Leong, MP, as well as Councillor Nancy Liu. Thank you for your presence and support today. And we also have many volunteers who are here today. They have participated in the interviews for the research. So also a big thank you to our volunteers. Okay, and last but not least, everyone who are present today, thank you for coming. Thank you for your support. We hope that you have enjoyed the event and you have found something interesting or inspiring for your future work or your research. Thank you. The research report presentation on supporting volunteerism, a research into a new pathway to combat OH, loneliness in COL community is now concluded. We'd like to offer you some refreshments just outside the venue. Please help yourselves. Once again, thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of your day.